Okay, one other question that came up was about Spanish. This is a pretty good time to introduce it. Most of you may have heard me say about 5 or 10 minutes ago, we don't have a Spanish translation for all these questions yet because about 420 were brand new. They just went in August, and then about another 300 or 400 got edited in July and August, so we don't have a full translation for them yet. So give us another month or 6 weeks, and we should have all these questions in Spanish. I hope we can do it that fast. But the built-in questions are in Spanish. So all the ones that are in this TEKS database here in the middle have a Spanish equivalent, okay? And it only takes a few mouse clicks to get it. It's really cool. So I want to show you this next. In fact, what I'm going to do is go back to a 2-column document and download it so we have something for comparison. And I'm going to reduce the font size just a little bit. Okay, so here's a 2-column document again. And I'm going to download it and just put it off to the side. Okay. All right, so here it is in English. And I'll walk you through the pages in just a minute. Now, the next option I'm going to show you, it's really easy to use, but it's going to take a slightly new way of thinking at first. And the reason is, this is not a word processor. Everything is saved up in the cloud. So, although you can't see it very well up here, there's no save or save as buttons. You don't need to worry about that. It's just saved. It's like a miracle. It's up in the cloud, and you just do stuff, and it gets saved. But because there is no save as button, it leads to a little quandary. How do you make a copy of something which you would, in a word processor, you normally save under a different name? Here's where your thinking changes a little bit. You just reverse the order of that. So instead of saving something under a new name, you start something new with a copy of the other thing. So you just switch it around slightly. You'll see that in a second. I hope that makes sense. So if I click the new button over here to the right, okay, I can give it a new title. I'll call this Grade 3 Samples B, okay? And I'm going to put B in parentheses so it's a little more obvious. So if you can't read that, it says Grade 3 Samples B. Now the reason for that is I'm not going to switch the language just yet, all right? What I'm going to do is take advantage of the paired problems. And I'm just going to make a parallel form, all right? So here, it's really simple. You just say start with a copy of something, which is the radio button right there. It says copy of, and the default document is the one that's already opened. So it's super easy. If you want to start with a copy of something that's older, you just click the browse button. So I'm starting with the one that I just made, and then down here, if you can't read it, the first option here is switch problems, make use of odd-even pairs. So if I chose an odd problem, it'll bring in the even match. If I chose the even, it'll bring in the odd match. And I'm going to get a splitting image for that document just by doing that. Okay? So grade 3 samples, form B, copy of grade 3 samples, switch problems, make use of odd and even pairs. It's going to create the new document. And if I immediately go to make PDF, because everything's going to be in parallel, and I download it and open it, I'm going to show it to you side by side with the other document. And it looks like the page is split slightly differently, which is unfortunate, but it'll be close enough. So there's the second one, and here's the first one. Oops, went off my screen. There we go. So side by side are the parallel forms, okay? Oh, the pages did split about the same way, okay? Now, they are slightly different, because we tried to vary the questions in interesting ways, but you can clearly see they parallel each other. We tried to do it on the following basis. If you gave one of these to a group of students and you gave the other one to another group of students, you could grade them comparably. It would be fair. So that's kind of the standard we went by. But you can see the parallelness of it. It looks like the question in the top right formatted slightly differently because the picture's a little bit bigger. But for the most part, it matches up quite well. Here's the second page, and so on. Okay? So that's the first parallel form option. Now I'm going to close the original one and now switch to Spanish. So I'm going to move B over here, go back to the program, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, but switch the language. I'm going to go to the new button, And I'm going to call this grade 3 samples in Spanish. Okay, start with a copy of the B form, and you can do it with the first form as well. And this time, I'm going to choose the option at the bottom, which if you can't read it, it says switch language. And I'm going to say from English to Spanish, and then just click create. And I should get a great match with a Spanish translation. I'm going to immediately go to make PDF, download it, and I'll show it to you side by side. Okay? So here it is in Spanish. Oops. And here's the one I started with in English. Now I'll go back to page 1. Oops. Okay. So there's a language switch from English to Spanish, Spanish on the left, and it just took a few mouse clicks. Hope that's helpful to you.
Thank you very much. You just made my deadline.
Okay, good. I mean, while that's on the screen, there's a few other things I might mention. You can see how the labeling is done with uppercase bold letters. I didn't point that out before, but that was some of the formatting options I went through. The workspace is all turned off, so it's fully condensed. And otherwise, those are the questions I picked. So the program is just being respectful of the order I picked them and doing what I tell it to do.